Today I want to show you how to make this really great 3D printer even better with mods that you can just make yourself. A part of this video is sponsored by PCBWay, more on that later. The first thing that I really love with this printer is the compact poop chute. If you're getting a Bambu Lab printer, especially with an AMS, you always need to get a poop chute. And of course this is a really easy one, and there are plenty of models out there. But most of them are separate to the printer and then just kind of go on the side. Those work definitely fine, but since this printer is so small that I love to move it around a lot, it's the one printer that I have at home. So I actually keep it in a closet a bunch of time and then just take it out whenever I actually need to use it. But with that, the poop chute would be annoying to always carry around. And this little one is really nice because it directly attaches to the printer. So this way, it's always there, you don't have to worry about it. The one downside that I have to mention is when the printer does its vibration testing, then you have the poop chute with all those little rattly balls of plastic in there, and it gets a lot louder and a lot more annoying. I mean, it doesn't make that big of a difference, and also you can just empty it regularly if that's a problem for you. In terms of the size, it looks really small, but I've actually printed a lot with it and didn't have to clean it out yet, so I think you'll be good. Just check in every now and then as you would do with any other poop collection system, and it'll be fine. So I really love this and can only recommend you print it yourself. One thing I wanted to mention, if you do a lot of multicolor printing, then this might not be the poop chute for you because it might run out pretty fast because you're producing a lot of waste. But yeah, otherwise I think this is great, and if you're using a lot of multicolor, then I'll have another model linked down below. The second thing on my list is this magnetic front cover. Honestly, this might just be a little difference, but it makes changing your hot end so much easier. And I love this, since changing hot ends on the A1 and A1 Mini is already so easy, this makes it even easier. So while before you had to take off the snap-mounted front plate, that was always a little finicky to me, and I actually ended up breaking off one part of it once. This is a way better solution, since you just take off the magnets and you have access to everything. As you might have already guessed, this is something you can't only just 3D print, but you also need some inexpensive magnets that you can buy pretty much anywhere online or maybe even offline. This was a really quick fix in terms of installing it, and it's saving me a little bit of time every time I want to change my hot end. And I really love that, since it's making it even easier. And you know, there's those points where you're like, do I really want to change it? It's so much effort, blah, blah, blah. And with this, it's now so easy that I really have one excuse less, and I get to change my hot ends more often, which leads to better or faster prints, both of which I love. The third thing goes kind of in the same category of making switching your hot ends even easier. And this isn't really a mod, but more a tool for the printer, but I hope that counts as well. What you're getting here is the A1 sock remover tool, which makes it even easier to kind of remove that sock that is over your hot end. I really love using a tool for this because depending on what you're doing, it might still be hot and you don't want to touch it with your bare hands. Before I did this with pliers, but it wasn't really easy to grab it, and now with this tool it's so easy since it's specifically made for it. This makes the whole thing even easier, and I love that. Also, if you don't want to do the magnetic front cover, this also has a little tool to get off the front cover a little bit easier, which might also be nice for you. Before we go further into the video, I want to thank today's sponsor, PCBWay. If you have an A1 Mini, then you might have run into problems where prints are too big to actually fit on the printer. And this is where something like PCBWay can definitely save your day. They have all the equipment that you don't, and they can make really huge prints that you could never make on your printer. So if your printer is limited in some way, be it size or in its capabilities, then just give it to PCBWay and they will make it for you. The process is really easy. You just put it on the website, you get an instant quote, and also their professional staff looks over each of the things you want to print and give you feedback in case something doesn't make sense. I think especially if you're just getting into 3D printing, this is super important, and honestly, it's helped me a lot. So whatever it is, CNC machining, laser cutting, or resin printing, they can do it all. So if you have a project but not all the tools for it, check out PCBWay and have them make it for you. The next thing I can really recommend is getting a splitter for your AMS if you bought that. This makes it a lot easier switching from the AMS to the external spool. And honestly, whenever you're printing somewhat special filaments, then this can be really nice to switch back and forth, since not all filaments are AMS Lite compatible. So there is this really handy splitter that now puts all of those 5 PDFE tubes into the printhead at once and allows you to have the AMS installed while also easily being able to use the external spool. This is a really good thing, but I'm personally not using it because I'm mostly using the printer without the AMS attached, and just want to be able to quickly attach the AMS. That's why I have a 4-in-1 splitter that takes all those 4 AMS PVD tubes and then outputs it as one single one that I can quickly insert in the printhead and take out whenever I don't need the AMS. This makes installing and taking away the AMS so much easier and faster, and really helps me use it when I need it and then put it away when I don't need it. On the other hand, the external spool is always installed since I usually just print through that. I think this is something where it really depends on how you use the printer yourself, and there's no right or wrong way, so both of them are listed in the description down below. Depending on the version you go with, you might need some PTFE tube fittings, but these are available on Amazon pretty cheaply, and it's something nice to have in the back of your pocket anyways. Also, you can buy the official 4-to-1 splitter from Bambu Lab, which is something then you have to buy and can print. But from what I've heard, this is a little smoother in terms of how it's made and might let your filament pass through easier. It's fairly cheap, so you might also just grab that depending on what you want. The link's down below. I also really like my cable chains. This is something that's purely aesthetical, but nonetheless, I think it looks a lot less cluttered when these are installed. There's a really nice version that's for the hotbed cable that manages this really nicely and I think looks cleaner than just the cable. Personally, I currently don't have this attached since I'm not sure if it's compatible with my Swapmod that I'm still using and loving, but more on that later. The other and more important one for me is the Z-axis cable chain. I think this really makes a difference in terms of the look of the printer and how tidy everything looks. And since I'm using this for a lot of videos, I think it matters if it looks cleaner. As I said, this is definitely not a must, but it's honestly fairly easy to print. I just printed out the whole thing in one bed, and then you just had to assemble it and put some parts onto the A1. All in all, it's a really clean look, and if that's something you want, I can only recommend doing this as well. One thing that I definitely would not want to live without is a top handle for the A1 Mini. As I said before, I love that this printer is so small and that I move it around a lot. And this is where handle comes in really useful and is super nice. The whole thing is surprisingly sturdy and you can just grab it by the handle and carry it wherever you want. And it's just a lot easier than always trying where to handle it properly and not grab that Z-axis, because that's the one thing you can't do with the A1 Mini. When you're installing this, it's really important to move the filament guide up towards the handle. If you don't do this, your cables might be stuck and the printer will drag on it, which will lead to all sorts of mayhem and you might even damage your printer. So I can only recommend to go for the newer version that has that little intake where you can put those filament management thing. Also, personally, I am now using a slightly different version because that's compatible with the Swapmod. I don't think this model is official yet since Andre the creator just sent it to me, so I can't share that right now, but it's definitely something that's on the roadmap and that will be compatible, and that's really nice for me. But all in all, in general, a top handle is something you need. The next mod I haven't used myself, so I guess it's more of an honorable mention, but it was too good to leave it out of this list. I think this AMS Lite Z-axis mount really solves one of the biggest problems with the A1 Mini and the AMS, because you have a really small printer that has this tiny form factor, but then you're putting this huge AMS right next to it. And with this, you're solving that because, at least in terms of width and depth, the footprint is so much smaller. Yes, it's a lot higher in terms of the overall size, but in many cases that might really make a big difference in terms of where you place it or how much you can place around it. This thing requires you to kind of modify your AMS, so this might not be something for everyone, but honestly, I think it's a really worthwhile print. If I were using my AMS on the A1 Mini all the time, then this is definitely something that I would build, and I think it's making the whole printer just even more space-saving and practical in so many ways. So definitely check it out if you think this is something that you want to do. Another essential to me is the A1 Mini Toolbox. This is a really tiny toolbox that goes right on this little space in your printer, and you just have everything you need right there. Normally I keep all of my printer related gear in my Graffinity system, which is really nice and well sorted. But since the A1 Mini typically lives at home where I don't have my Graffinity system, this is a really nice way to store all the tools that I need for the printer directly with the printer. Yes, it's not perfectly sorted in every way, but I think just keeping everything right there where you need it is so nice and so helpful. So if you're just using this as your first printer or just want to keep everything in one place where you need it right by the printer, then this is such a nice way to make your workflow a little bit easier. Also, you never have to guess, where did I put this? Where do I grab that tool from? It's all right by the printer where you need it, when you need it. And that makes 3D printing that little bit faster and easier, which I love. What you see here in the video is a special version of the box that connects to the Z-axis chain that I'm also using, but there's also the just standard normal version of the box. I'll have both linked down below, so pick whichever one works for you. A great mod that couldn't be missing on this list is the AMS Lite Housing. In my opinion, this is a little bit of an advanced mod, not only because it takes a lot of time filament to build everything up, but also because I think a lot of beginners will just not need this. It's really nice to have a housing around your AMS Lite to protect your filament from water, but also most beginners probably print mostly PLA, which is not that susceptible to taking in water and degrading quickly, so you really gotta see if it's worth it. If you're printing more difficult filaments which do take in water quickly, then this might be something that's really worth it, and in general, I just really love how cool this thing is. It does go a little bit against the trend of this video of making things smaller, more compact and more movable, since I think it makes you slower, it's big and kind of chunky. But yeah, if you want to use those filaments that really need to be kept away from water and moisture, then this is such a great solution and I didn't want to keep that from you. If you want to know more about this mod, JetL made a really great video about this mod specifically, so you can check that out here. The last mod on this list is the only one that you can fully make by yourself, but where you really gotta buy something. But the Swapmod is such a cool thing that you definitely shouldn't miss it. The Swapmod is this little thing that you attach to your A1 Mini and that allows it to cycle through print plates and just keep printing after one of the plates is full. This basically turns the A1 Mini into a small print farm, and it's been working really great for me so far. Having used it extensively, it's honestly changed the mileage that I'm getting out of my printer, because before I could maybe get one print done through the night, but it would usually be done after like whatever 2 or 3 hours, and then the printer would stop. Now I can just queue up different prints and the printer will print for like whatever 12 hours, and once I'm back in the morning it's done, but I have 4 plates done that I fully printed instead of 1, and that makes all the difference, and I can print so much more during that time. So if that sounds interesting to you, I actually made a full video on the Swapmod, so check that out here and definitely watch it, since I think it's one of the best mods that I've ever seen. It costs around 70 bucks to buy, but that's definitely worth it because you're getting so much more out of your printer in my opinion. So that's it for my favorite A1 Mini mods. The links to all the models that I talked about will be in the description down below. Also, I'd really love to hear from you. What's your favorite A1 Mini mod? Did I forget it, or is there something that you think should really be on this list? Let me know in the comments down below, and also just say hi. One last thing that I want to mention is, if you want to buy a new Bambu Lab printer or buy all the filament to print all of these cool mods, then please use my affiliate link in the description down below. It really helps me and the channel a lot, and I will be forever grateful if you do so. But for now, if you're not done watching awesome YouTube videos yet, then you should check out this video about my favorite tools for 3D printing. These are all the different tools that make my life a lot easier, make printing better, faster, and less stressful. So check that out. You might know some of them already, but it's gotta be that 1 or 2 things that really make your life easier. But for now, thanks so much for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.